Sometimes the smallest creatures carry the deepest reminders. Ants may seem insignificant, but when they appear in our homes in unusual ways, it can stir our hearts to reflect. Nothing in this world happens without wisdom, and even the presence of ants can hold hidden messages for us. Let us pause and reflect on 6 possible reminders when ants enter our homes. 1. A call towards cleanliness. Ants are naturally drawn to food, crumbs, and neglected corners. Their presence may be a gentle reminder that our home requires more attention in cleanliness. Purity is half of faith, and when our homes are kept clean, they not only shine outwardly but also invite peace and barakah inwardly. 2. A sign of neglect. Sometimes ants appear where there is moisture, leaks, or unattended waste. This may be a sign that something in our home has been left uncared for. Just as we are asked to take care of our spiritual state, we are also asked to take care of our surroundings. Ants remind us not to ignore the small things, for small neglects grow into bigger problems. 3. A test of patience. When ants invade food or spread across the house, frustration can easily take over, but perhaps their presence is a test of patience. Will we react with anger, or will we handle it calmly and wisely? Sometimes even the smallest irritations are tests that shape our character. 4. A reminder of unity and discipline. Ants are known for their discipline, teamwork, and unity. Seeing them move in perfect order may be a lesson for us. Are we working together as a family? Are we supporting one another like the ants support their colony? Their presence can inspire us to strengthen our bonds at home. 5. A warning against waste. Ants are quick to gather what is left behind. If food is constantly dropped, wasted, or left uncovered, it may be a message to value every blessing. Wasting food is a form of ingratitude, and these little creatures remind us that even the smallest morsel has value. 6. A nudge towards reflection. Finally, the presence of ants may simply be a nudge to remember that nothing happens by chance. Even the smallest insect can remind us of greater truths: humility, discipline, gratitude, and responsibility. If such tiny creatures have their place and purpose, what about us? Closing reflections. So the next time ants appear in your home, do not see them as a random nuisance. See them as messengers carrying hidden wisdom. Perhaps they are calling you to purify, to reflect, to be patient, and to reconnect with the values that bring peace and blessings into your life. When ants enter your home, the very first thing they remind us of is cleanliness. These tiny creatures are naturally attracted to food, crumbs, sugar, and even the smallest drops of liquid that we might overlook. They do not go where there is nothing to eat, they go where there is neglect. And so, when they suddenly appear, it is as if life itself is whispering to us, pay attention to the state of your surroundings. Cleanliness is not just about sweeping the floor or washing the dishes. It is a reflection of our inner state, our discipline, and our respect for the blessings we have been given. When a home is clean, it feels lighter, the atmosphere changes, there is a calmness that settles into the walls and floors, and those who live in it feel a sense of relief. On the other hand, when there is clutter, mess, or neglect, the home begins to feel heavy, suffocating, and uneasy. Ants have an incredible way of exposing where we have fallen short. That one piece of bread we left uncovered, the sugar spilled on the counter, the crumbs under the dining table, or the sticky drop of juice on the floor. All these are invitations for ants. In that sense, they are not really the problem. They are a sign pointing us towards it. They make visible what we have ignored. Think about how we are told that purity is half of faith. This is not simply a religious slogan, it is a practical truth. A pure home allows pure thoughts. A clean space nurtures a clean heart. When we begin to treat cleanliness as part of our spiritual life, everything changes. Suddenly, wiping the table is not just wiping the table. It is an act of gratitude for having food to eat. Sweeping the floor is not just sweeping the floor. It is a way of protecting our home from harm and discomfort. Washing the dishes is not just a chore, it is a form of discipline and care for the blessings we enjoy every single day. And perhaps that is why ants show up, to remind us that blessings can slip away if we do not honor them. Food left uncovered spoils, crumbs left on the floor invite pests, neglect always attracts consequences. But when we respect the little things, we create an environment where peace, health, and barakah can flow freely. On another level, ants remind us that cleanliness is also about prevention. We often wait until something becomes a problem before we deal with it. But ants appear because prevention was missing. Maybe if we had covered the jar properly, they would never have found it. Maybe if we had cleaned up immediately, they would not be marching across the kitchen counter. Their sudden appearance shows us that delay in cleanliness invites extra effort later. This same principle applies to life. When we neglect small duties, whether in our faith, in our family relationships, or in our work, they pile up. And eventually, they demand more from us than they would have if we had just handled them in the moment. Cleanliness, then, is not just about dust and dirt. It is about discipline, responsibility, and consistency. Have you ever noticed how much more focused and peaceful you feel when your room is tidy? It is not simply psychological, it is spiritual as well. Disorder around us reflects disorder within us. When we clear the clutter outside, we create space for clarity inside. The ants crawling on the floor may just be reminding you, put things back in order. Your soul will breathe easier when your space is clean. Children who grow up in clean environments also grow up with a sense of responsibility. They learn to value order, respect what they have, and take care of their surroundings. Families that keep their homes clean often find that they argue less, because the atmosphere itself becomes lighter. Cleanliness is not only about physical hygiene, it is about emotional and spiritual harmony as well. Ants, in their own way, are teachers. They enter where they are invited by neglect, and they leave when order is restored. Instead of being irritated by them, perhaps we can see them as a reminder that everything in life requires care. Nothing stays pure on its own. Effort is always needed. Just as our hearts require constant renewal through remembrance and prayer, our homes require constant renewal through cleanliness and order. When ants begin to appear in unusual places, it is often more than just a cleanliness issue. Sometimes their presence highlights something deeper: neglect. Ants are drawn not only to food, but also to damp corners, cracks, leaks, and forgotten spaces. They reveal the areas we rarely pay attention to. In this way, their sudden arrival is like a spotlight shining on the places we have overlooked, reminding us that nothing stays hidden forever. Neglect always starts small. A dripping pipe, a corner that hasn't been dusted, a bag of rice left open, or a shelf that hasn't been checked in months. These tiny oversights may not seem urgent at first, but slowly they create an environment where ants, pests, and even discomfort thrive. What could have been prevented with a few minutes of care now grows into something that requires far more effort to fix. This is how life works too. Small neglects in our homes often mirror the small neglects in our personal lives. Just as ignoring a crack in the wall eventually weakens the structure, ignoring cracks in our responsibilities weakens the foundation of our lives. We may neglect our health, thinking one skipped meal or one unhealthy habit will not matter. We may neglect our relationships, assuming a missed conversation or a forgotten apology will not change anything. We may neglect our faith, believing that missing one prayer or delaying one act of remembrance will not make a difference. But over time, these small neglects pile up, and suddenly the cracks are too big to ignore. Ants, in their quiet persistence, expose what we would rather not see. They gather around the rice that spilled under the cabinet months ago. They build trails near the damp corner where water has been leaking. They teach us without words that neglected spaces invite problems. Their presence is a silent question. What have you left unattended in your home and in your life? Neglect is dangerous because it is invisible at first. It does not scream for attention. It whispers. It hides in corners. It waits patiently until the damage is undeniable. And by the time we notice, it often takes more effort to repair what could have been easily prevented. Think of a garden. If you neglect watering it for a few days, the soil begins to dry. If you neglect it for weeks, the plants begin to wither. If you neglect it long enough, the garden that was once full of life turns into barren ground. Neglect slowly steals life away, piece by piece, while we convince ourselves that everything is fine. In our homes, ants remind us to look where we usually do not look. They ask us to open the cupboards, check the corners, clean the shelves, and fix what is broken. They remind us that hidden neglect will always find a way to reveal itself. And if this is true for our homes, how much truer is it for our hearts? How often do we ignore the little signs of neglect within ourselves? The moments of irritation we brush off, the sadness we never talk about, the responsibilities we keep postponing, the prayers we keep delaying, the conversations we keep avoiding, each of these is like a crumb left behind, a small drop of water left to leak, a hidden corner left unchecked. And just like ants, the consequences will eventually appear, exposing what we ignored. Neglect is not about laziness alone. It is about forgetting the value of what we have been given. Our homes, our health, our families, our time, and our faith are all blessings. When we neglect them, we do not just harm them, we harm ourselves. Ants come as a reminder that blessings deserve care. If we care for them consistently, they remain sources of peace. If we ignore them, they slowly turn into burdens. The lesson here is not to fear neglect, but to be aware of it. To train our eyes to notice the small things before they become big. To learn from ants, who never overlook the tiniest crumb, that nothing is too small to matter. They remind us that discipline is not about doing extraordinary things, but about consistently handling the little things with care. So, when ants appear where they should not be, pause and ask yourself, what have I neglected, both in my home and in my life? For often, what we see in the physical world reflects what is happening inside us. The corners we ignore in our homes may be pointing to the corners we are ignoring in our hearts. When ants appear in our homes, one of the most immediate feelings we experience is irritation. They crawl over the sugar jar, swarm around the fruit, or invade a plate of food left uncovered. Sometimes, no matter how many we wipe away, more keep coming back. It can feel endless, and in that moment, frustration rises inside us. But what if their very presence is a test not of cleanliness alone, but of patience? Patience is one of the hardest virtues to practice in everyday life. We often imagine patience as enduring a big trial like illness, loss, or hardship. But in reality, patience is tested most often in small, ordinary moments, the kind we overlook: a buzzing mosquito at night, a child spilling milk for the third time, a slow internet connection when we are in a hurry, or tiny ants invading our food. These may seem trivial, but they reveal the state of our hearts. Do we snap in anger? Do we lose control? Or do we respond with calmness, restraint, and wisdom? Ants teach us this lesson quietly. They move without fear, without care for our annoyance, as if to remind us that the world will not always bend to our comfort. We will be inconvenienced, we will be tested, and often those tests will come in forms smaller than we expect. The question is, how will we respond? Losing patience over ants may seem like nothing, but it reflects something deeper. If we cannot control our temper over small irritations, how will we manage our emotions during greater challenges? If we become angry over crumbs being taken, what will we do when real difficulties enter our lives? Every little test is preparation for bigger ones. Just as a student practices on small exercises before the final exam, life gives us small irritations to strengthen our patience before the bigger storms arrive. Sometimes patience is not just about controlling anger, it is about choosing wisdom. If ants appear, will we keep complaining endlessly, or will we look for the reason they are coming? Will we waste energy on shouting, or will we calmly find a solution? Ants invite us to pause, breathe, and respond with thoughtfulness rather than emotion. Patience also teaches us mercy. These are, after all, tiny creatures with no ill intent. They are simply seeking sustenance, following their instinct just as we seek ours. If we react with cruelty, crushing them without thought, we miss the opportunity to soften our hearts. A patient person learns to deal with problems firmly, yes, but also with a sense of compassion. Even in removing ants, there is a way to act with calmness rather than rage. Think about the home itself. A house filled with impatience becomes heavy with tension. Children grow fearful. Spouses walk on eggshells. Even the smallest inconvenience leads to arguments. But a home where patience is practiced becomes a sanctuary. Ants may appear, food may spill, things may go wrong, but instead of chaos there is understanding, instead of shouting there is cooperation, instead of anger there is problem solving. This is the difference patience makes. And patience is not passive. It does not mean doing nothing. It means enduring calmly while acting wisely. So when ants come, patience may mean cleaning carefully, sealing food properly, or fixing the source of the problem without letting anger take over. It means recognizing the test and passing it with grace. We often pray for strength in life, but strength is not always shown by loudness, control, or force. Sometimes the strongest person is the one who remains calm in the face of small irritations. Ants, in their persistence, remind us that the world will not always be comfortable, yet in that discomfort there is growth. Every time we choose patience, we polish our hearts a little more. So perhaps the next time ants gather around your food, instead of only feeling annoyance, pause and ask yourself, is this my chance to practice patience? Because if we can master patience in the little things, we prepare ourselves for the bigger tests of life that are yet to come. One of the most fascinating qualities of ants is their sense of unity and discipline. Watch them closely and you will see a living lesson unfold before your eyes. They do not move in chaos. They march in order, each one knowing its role, each one following a path. When one ant discovers food, it does not keep the discovery to itself. Instead, it informs the others, and soon an entire line forms, moving with purpose and direction. Their unity is so strong that even though they are small and fragile, together they achieve things that seem impossible. Now, imagine for a moment if human beings lived with the same discipline. Imagine families supporting one another like ants support their colony. Imagine communities working in order, each person playing their role with dedication, without jealousy or selfishness. Imagine nations where unity overpowered division, where cooperation was valued above personal gain. The world would look very different. Ants remind us that success is not always about size or strength. It is about discipline, order, and unity. One ant cannot carry a large piece of food alone, but many ants working together can move it with ease. Similarly, one person may struggle with life's burdens, but when family members, friends, or community members come together, even heavy challenges can be lifted. The power of unity multiplies strength. Discipline is another powerful lesson ants teach us. They do not waste time wandering aimlessly. Every step they take is purposeful. They have a system and they follow it. If one path is blocked, they reorganize and find another route, without panic, without giving up. They do not complain about obstacles, they adapt. They do not scatter in fear, they remain in order. This is discipline in its purest form, calm, steady, and consistent. How often do we lose sight of these qualities in our daily lives? Families argue over small matters, forgetting the bigger picture of love and unity. Communities divide over pride or competition, forgetting that cooperation brings greater blessings. Even within ourselves, we often live without discipline, delaying what we must do, wasting time, or abandoning our goals when obstacles appear. But ants, without saying a word, remind us that unity and discipline are the keys to survival, success, and peace. Think of your own home, when each family member works together, sharing responsibilities, supporting each other's struggles, and showing care. The home becomes a place of strength. But when everyone isolates themselves, when selfishness takes over, the home weakens. Just as ants cannot survive alone, we cannot thrive in isolation. We are made to support one another. On a larger level, ants also show us humility. Not one ant seeks glory. Not one ant demands recognition. Their focus is collective success. They remind us that life is not about outshining others, but about contributing to a greater whole. Imagine how our workplaces, communities, and families would transform if we lived with this mind, set less competition, more cooperation. Less pride, more humility, less me, and more we. Discipline, too, is a lesson we need daily. Without discipline, our days slip away. Without order, our blessings scatter. Ants show us that even with limited strength, discipline creates results. They never waste energy on what is useless. They direct their efforts to what matters most. And when they face challenges, they adjust instead of giving up. How often do we need this reminder in our own struggles? When one path closes, another can open, but only if we have the discipline to keep moving forward. Perhaps this is why ants appear before us, to show us what true order and cooperation look like. Their tiny bodies carry immense lessons. They whisper to us that greatness does not lie in individual power, but in collective effort. They remind us that success is not achieved through chaos, but through consistency and discipline. They teach us that no obstacle is too great when unity and order guide the way. So, when you see ants moving in a line, do not just brush them away. Pause, reflect. Let their movement inspire you to strengthen unity in your home, your family, and your community. Let their discipline remind you that order, consistency, and humility are the keys to a blessed life. When ants appear in the home, one of the clearest messages they bring is a warning against waste. These small creatures are incredibly resourceful. They do not overlook even the tiniest crumb of bread or the smallest grain of rice. What we consider insignificant, they see as treasure. What we carelessly throw away, they carefully collect. Their presence reminds us that blessings are not to be wasted. Waste is not only about food. It is a mindset, it is the attitude of taking blessings for granted. When we waste food, water, time, or even opportunities, we show ingratitude toward the gifts that have been placed in our hands. Ants, in their humble way, challenge that attitude. They remind us that everything has value, no matter how small. Think about how often food is wasted in our homes, a half-eaten plate left behind, bread left to dry on the counter, fruits and vegetables spoiled in the fridge because we bought more than we needed. Sometimes it is not neglect, but a lack of appreciation. We forget that every grain of rice, every drop of water, and every piece of bread is a blessing that many in the world long for but do not have. Ants do not waste, they gather diligently, taking only what they can carry, and they store it with care. Their behavior mirrors what we are called to practice: gratitude, moderation, and respect for blessings. Watching them scurry away with crumbs can spark a deep reflection. If such tiny creatures value what we ignore, what does that say about us? On a deeper level, wasting food and resources leads to consequences beyond our own homes. When we waste water, we contribute to shortages that affect others. When we waste food, we increase demand while millions remain hungry. When we waste time, we lose opportunities that may never return. Ants appear as a small but powerful reminder that every resource matters. The presence of ants around wasted food is not just a nuisance. It is a sign. They are telling us, you left something unvalued and we have come to claim it. What we treat carelessly, they treat with discipline. And perhaps the lesson is this: when we fail to honor our blessings, they may slip away and be given to others who will appreciate them. There is also wisdom in how ants handle what they find. They do not hoard excessively or wastefully. They gather enough to sustain their community. They remind us that balance is key. Having blessings is not wrong, but wasting them is. Enjoying food is not wrong, but taking more than we can eat is. Using resources is not wrong, but being careless with them is. Waste also applies to our inner lives. How often do we waste our time on distractions instead of purpose? How often do we waste words in arguments instead of using them for healing? How often do we waste our energy on resentment instead of growth? Just as ants gather every crumb, perhaps we should learn to gather every moment, every opportunity, and every blessing with care, making the most of them before they slip away. When ants gather around wasted food, it is as if they are showing us the value of what we ignore. They are reminding us that someone else will always find worth in what we consider worthless. And if such tiny creatures can see value in crumbs, then surely we, with far greater understanding, should see value in every blessing we hold. A life without gratitude is a life full of waste. Gratitude turns every blessing into abundance, but waste turns abundance into loss. Ants teach us to value, preserve, and respect the gifts around us. They teach us to live with awareness, to avoid excess, and to remember that what we take for granted today may be what we long for tomorrow. So the next time you see ants surrounding a crumb of bread, let it remind you, do not waste what you have been given. Because blessings, no matter how small, are sacred, and when treated with care, they invite even more into your life. When ants appear in your home, beyond cleanliness, beyond patience, beyond waste, they also carry a deeper message, a call to reflect. These tiny creatures, often brushed away as insignificant, can become silent teachers if we open our eyes and hearts. They remind us that nothing in this world happens without meaning. Even the smallest movement, even the tiniest insect, carries lessons for those who choose to reflect. We live in a world where distractions surround us. Our days are filled with tasks, responsibilities, and constant noise. In this rush, we rarely stop to notice the small signs around us. Yet, reflection is what separates living from merely existing. Reflection transforms ordinary events into extraordinary wisdom, and sometimes reflection begins with something as small as an ant crossing our path. When ants gather in your home, they may be whispering truths you need to hear. They may be reminding you of humility, that no matter how great you are never too big to learn from something small. They may be reminding you of consistency, that every step, no matter how tiny, builds toward a greater purpose. They may be reminding you of gratitude, that even crumbs, which we overlook, can sustain life for others. These are not accidents, they are hidden reminders woven into creation. Reflection allows us to see beyond the surface. Instead of only asking, "Why are these ants here?" reflection asks, "What are they teaching me?" It shifts the perspective from annoyance to awareness. Instead of frustration, it brings insight, and with insight, the heart grows softer, the mind grows wiser, and the soul grows calmer. Think of how ants leave with purpose. They never waste their movements. They never give up when an obstacle blocks their path. They work tirelessly, not for themselves alone, but for their entire community. What if we reflected on these qualities and asked ourselves, do I live with such purpose? Do I keep moving forward when obstacles block me? Do I contribute to the well-being of my family and community, or am I living only for myself? Reflection is not about overthinking, it is about pausing. It is about seeing the connection between the seen and the unseen, between the small and the great. If even ants, who are among the tiniest of creatures, play such an important role in the balance of life, then surely we with far greater abilities carry responsibilities far deeper than we realize. Often we complain about life being repetitive or ordinary, but perhaps it is not life that lacks meaning. It is us who lack reflection. The presence of ants can turn into a nuisance if we see only the surface. But if we look deeper, they transform into a mirror, showing us truths about discipline, gratitude, patience, and responsibility. This call to reflection is not only about ants, it is about life itself. Every sunrise is a reminder of renewal, every hardship is a reminder of growth, every blessing is a reminder of gratitude, every creature, no matter how small, is a sign waiting to be read. The question is, are we paying attention? Ants appear in silence, without fanfare. They do not demand our attention, but they capture it when they arrive in large numbers. Reflection works the same way. Life does not always shout lessons at us, it whispers them. If we do not pause to listen, we miss them. But if we slow down, pay attention, and reflect, the smallest details reveal the greatest wisdom. So when ants cross your path, let them stir your heart toward reflection. Let them remind you that nothing is too small to matter, that no blessing is too minor to appreciate, and that no moment is too ordinary to carry wisdom. They are a call to look deeper, to think wider, and to live more consciously. Because sometimes it is not the loudest events that teach us the most. Sometimes it is the quiet march of tiny ants that awaken us to the greater truths of life.